What's good, everybody? Sean Rosenberg in the building. Welcome to the live stream. I was supposed to do this this past not yesterday and Friday, but I was supposed to do this a couple of weeks ago after I did the first half, which is part 1 and part 2 of this documentary about what happened to the dynasty. Where did it go wrong with the Roc-A-Fella, a true dynasty? I did part 1 and part 2 a couple of weeks ago, but I was supposed to do the second half, which is part 3 and part 4. I was supposed to do that a couple of weeks ago, but things came up, and then I was supposed to do it 2 days ago, Friday, and then I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I didn't have the chance to do it because, you know, other things. But we're gonna go ahead and do the second half, which is part 3 and 4, and then 4 is actually the finale. So I got a chance to watch part 1 and part 2. It was pretty cool to see. A lot has happened with Roc-A-Fella. If you guys don't know, in part 2, Roc-A-Fella ended up starting to show the cracks of them crumbling, because right now we saw that slightly tensions between Jay-Z and Dame Dash was started to come. And of course, a lot of the artists from Roc-A-Fella in part 2 started blowing up. Beanie Siegel started blowing up. Memphis Bleak ended up blowing up. Gotten great music. So yeah, and I think we're gonna go ahead and continue the success and the rise and fall of Roc-A-Fella. So we're gonna go ahead. This is part 3 now. So enough of me talking, and we're gonna have ourselves like a watch party again. So basically, I'm not gonna do as much talking. You know, I got my food ready. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun. So without further ado, let's enjoy the show. Hold on.
Fly boys. Nigga, bird gang, we flying high.
Fly boys,
for really, man.
Jim
Purple
Jones,
in the
Capo
sky.
status, fresh to death,
Fly.
killer.
Holla.
Where you at? That's my dude, 7:45. Ha ha, flossing.
You know we about straight 7 figures, nigga.
Dollars.
Harlem, we back. Taliban. Yo, shit, I thought I mastered the plan. Until I heard 3 knocks. Next question I was asking a man, how much longer in the back of this van? Got my fingers all swollen from these cuffs that you clacked in my hand. Got the nerve, man, to ask me the grams. You done kicked down my door for this package of grams. Damn. Now I'm walking up these corner stairs, and I'm thinking to myself, where's the support and the prayers? I've done sold drugs in New York for some years. The shit that I sold, niggas lost their career. And what's endorsing my fear? It's going upstate, motherfuckers up north for some years. When Uncle Ricky caught my first big charge, but with Cam I brought my first big car. And now the flow is tremendous. I be thinking of the days I was on the road with the Brennan.
Before I get into the video, like, man, you guys flooded my Instagram DMs and the comment section, my previous videos, with love and support, and I appreciate that. I did get a bunch of people asking me about what happened to Amil, and honestly, after her debut album dropped, she just was forgotten about on the label. Her debut album didn't do well, no matter how you cut it. They spent more money on her than what she made back. I don't know when exactly she left or got dropped from the label. I assume after 2002 or somewhere around there. I know things were weird in 2001, especially with Big Tigger asking Beanie Siegel what happened to Amil.
Now what happened with Amil?
Oh. Now, what you say?
What happened with Amil? What happened with Amil?
Man, I don't know, man.
Man, you asking the wrong people, man.
I don't know,
relate,
man.
You know what I mean?
She doing her right now.
know
what happened with
Right.
Siegel.
What happened with Siegel?
I can tell you everything that happened with Desert Storm.
But
I can't tell you about Amil, though. I was sticking to the script. Let him know, please. You know what I mean?
MOP.
Yo, who running this joint, man?
Amil even tells her side of the story in the video.
And as far as there was a lot of hate going on at the label, yes it was. Or I do believe that had a lot to do with it. I mean, I also heard that it was because I got real big and shit, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, I got up to a little 135 pounds, if you want to call that big. Okay, yeah, I got there.
Oh, so they even said that because you gained some weight?
Yeah. That I gained weight, that I was real lazy and all this shit. Like, I mean, come on. All right, yes, I did gain a little weight.
Okay, how much weight did you gain?
I was like 110 pounds. It's less than that when I did cannot get it and all that. You know what I'm saying?
And then
so
you
I gained a couple pounds. And I was eating, you know what I'm saying?
Amil wasn't, in fact, the only female artist on the Roc, though. They also had acts like Nicole Ray and Samantha Ronson. Nicole Ray is a singer who was born in California but raised in Virginia. In 1998, her debut album, Make It Hot, was released and was backed by the self-titled single, Make It Hot, which peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. However, her album didn't do so well, peaking at number 42 on the Billboard 200 chart. In July of 2001, Nicole would release the first single for her planned second album, Electric Blue, but the album would eventually be shelved. She then parted from the Goldmine Inc. label she was on, which was founded by Missy Elliott, and then she jumped ship to Roc-A-Fella Records. She would guest appear on records like ODB's, aka Dirt McGirt's Welcome Home, Cameron's Family Ties, and Dipset's I Wanna Be Your Lady. In 2004, she would release the song If I Was Your Girlfriend from her scheduled Roc-A-Fella debut, but also her sophomore studio album, Love Child. With the split of Roc-A-Fella Records, the album would ultimately never come out. Now, Samantha Ronson is a DJ, singer, and songwriter from London. She would become the first rock act signed to Roc-A-Fella Records. She released 4 songs on Roc-A-Fella Records, which were Pull My Hair Out, Fool, If It's Gonna Rain, and Built This Way. And she wrote and recorded her first album, Red. However, bad timing and the split of Roc-A-Fella led to her first album never being released. Before I get even more into the video, I would first like to thank you guys for coming to see this, because you guys can be doing a million other things right now, but instead, you're here with me. I appreciate that. If you guys like the content, you guys should like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. I reply to all of the comments. I love going through them and seeing what you guys think. Also, follow my Instagram too. That would be greatly appreciated. You guys can DM me some video ideas or just show me some love. Comment down below your favorite artist or group on the Roc and why, favorite project, favorite mixtape. Also, represent where you're from in the comment section below. I want to see where y'all are tuning in at. Definitely represent where you're from. Also, check out my pinned comment, because I'm going to ask what you guys want me to talk about in the last part, which is part 4. Part 4 will be about the years 2005 and beyond, pretty much. I will say that I am going to mainly talk about the split of Roc-A-Fella and try to cover as many angles as possible. If I talk about all the albums from that era, like, that would just eat up too much time. But the split is what I'm mainly going to talk about, and a little bit of the Roc Nation era too. Trust me, I've already written a mini script for the last episode, and boy, like, it's going to be wild. Without further ado, I give you the documentary of Roc-A-Fella, Part 3, Diamonds Are Forever. The first album to release on the Roc in 2003 was Freeway's Philadelphia Freeway. I'm going to say this because I don't care what no one says. This is one of my favorite albums off of Roc-A-Fella. From top to bottom, this album is fire. I've seen people in the past talking bad on Freeway, calling him whack, but I don't know what they on, because he can really spit. I found this old clip of Freeway that he posted on his Instagram a while ago, and I'm just gonna play it for you guys.
I've been in and out the bench, stay home, hopped in and out the bench, falling off your block, wonder about my end, stop, worry about yourself, when they find you like your friend, shot, popped in the abdomen, that's what they get for tattle, the that will make you better than person and stash, was running to feed their family, I can't stand cops, I don't care if you mad at me, switches, just as bad as I'm catching them at it,
Also, back in the day, were you a too raw for the streets guy, or were you a smack DVD guy, or both? Or heck, maybe even another DVD type of guy? Let me know in the comment section below. But the album Philadelphia Freeway was led by the single What We Do, which was released in September of 2002. The song reached number 97 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and also featured Beanie Siegel and Jay-Z. I really love the video for the song.
Yeah, this is one of my I agree with that. Like, for example, What We Do is one of my favorite records off that project as well. Of Freeway's album, Philadelphia, Freeway Philadelphia. That's one of my favorites. I think Jay-Z, Beanie Siegel, and Freeway, they all did their thing on the record. And shout out to Just Blaze. The production and the sample was fire. Just want to say that, but let's continue.
With its references to the show The Wire, which to me is probably my favorite show of all time, and to me the best show of all time. And I've always wanted to do a video on that show because, man, like, I just love that show so much. But the second single for the album was the song Alright, and it's actually a remix of Alan Anthony's debut single. But remember, Alan Anthony was the member of Chris Young that stayed on The Roc. Freeway's album would then release in late February of 2003, and the third single that emerged from the album was Flipside. In Just Blaze's words, Flipside is a derivative of the song Rock the Mic. Jay-Z wanted Beyonce to do an R&B version of Rock the Mic, so Just Blaze flipped the beat and did an R&B version of it. Beyonce's version of Rock the Mic never got finished, so Freeway got his hands on the switch up at the end of the beat of the original song.
That's crazy. I did not know Beyonce was gonna do a remix version to one of Freeway's songs. Hey, Flipside is another one I enjoy, and if you guys know the classic dance movie You Got Served, that's how I knew about the song. Freeway and Petey Crack did his thing on that record. Let's continue.
That Jay-Z was going to rhyme to, and did this song called Make the Cake. Just Blaze would do the beat over, and in an interview, he said Oschino was originally on Flipside and got yanked off. It was Freeway doing 2 verses and then Oschino on the last verse, but we put Petey Crack on the second verse in the introduction, and the rest was history. Flipside would have been Freeway's first single, but it didn't exist in its current form until after they decided to shoot the video for Alright. It existed as Make the Cake, and it was cool, but right before we shot the video for Alright, I made Flipside from Make the Cake. Then it was like, yo, this is crazy, but it's too late. We're already in the process with this other record. The second album to be released off of The Roc in 2003 was Diplomatic Immunity, which released in March of that year. It was Dipset's debut album, which peaked at number 8 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling 92,000 copies in its first week. I know I would just talk about how Freeway's debut album is one of my favorite albums on The Roc, which it still is, but this album is like my absolute favorite. I know that Blueprint is up there and all that, but this Dipset album, top to bottom, bruh. Man, like, this album is just, and it's also a double disc, and it's also a certified classic. Of course, this album spawned songs like I Really Mean It, Ground Zero, and Bout It Part 3. But the song that stands out from this album is indeed Dipset Anthem. The beat for the song was made by Arsonist from the Heatmakers, and Arsonist really got into producing beats when Thriller, the other member of the Heatmakers, bought an MPC and lent it to Arsonist. While Thriller was gone.
That's a fire MPC. I think I said MPC. Yeah, MPC. That's a fire MPC. I think I got one. Just to give y'all a little story, I actually have a MPC myself, but it's more old school. It's like the early 2000s. Not early 2000s, early 2010s MPC. I actually have one because at one point I wanted to become a producer and make my own beats. But yeah, just a little story on that. I still have it. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it again, but just a little story. But let's continue.
Arsonist would make 2 beats and then he would run into music industry veteran Todd Terry. Todd would then request more beats, but Arsonist said he didn't have his own equipment to work with. So 3 days later, Terry sent him $20,000 worth of equipment to Arsonist's house to get him started. It's crazy because the song Dipset Anthem is really a one of one. And years later, Arsonist will be asked to make the beat again, and he just simply couldn't. It's just one of them things where all the stars happen to align. If you want to know more about Dipset, then I'm going to suggest you check out my video I did on them a while back. I'll put a link in the description. The last song that I want to talk about is I Love You. And there was actually some controversy behind the song due to Jewels on the original version of the song saying, I worship the late prophet, the great Muhammad, Amir Atta, for his courage behind the wheel of the plane. It reminds me of when I was dealing the cane. Muhammad Amir Atta was a 9/11 hijacker. So of course, this definitely was called out. But Jewels defended the lyric by saying that he was only praising the courage of Atta and not his actions. By the time the album was released, the lyrics and the beat had been replaced. A month after Diplomatic Immunity released, Jay-Z released Blueprint 2.1. It was a compressed version of the Blueprint 2 because many, including me, thought the original album had a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of filler. I might get some hate for saying that, but if you look at
That is, I mean, I think that was wise for Jay-Z to do that, and I wish a lot more artists can do that. Because I know a lot of artists likes to overstuff their albums with so much music. Like I'm talking about tracks that are over 20 between, if you release an album that has overly more than 20 tracks, like between 20 to 30 tracks or 30 tracks or more, that's way too much music. Okay, that's way too much. With me, I like, or unless if the album is a double disc album, okay, that's fine. It's a double disc. But if it's just tracks that are like 20 to 30 tracks or more, that's way too much music. I would break the album into, like, I would do like what, like you just seen with Jay-Z. Jay-Z released Blueprint 2.2, I believe 2.5. I think that's what it was. Yeah, 2.1. I was wrong. 2.1, not 2.5. Now, if more artists would do this, like cut the album short. Now, if you have more songs for the album that wasn't able to make the cut, do a 2.1, do a 2.5 or 2.1 where you release it's like a deluxe version, but in a reissue way. Like add like an additional tracks that you didn't want that did not make the album. Like I said, if it's a double disc album, it was like if it's double disc, okay. And then if it's just one album full with 20 to 30 tracks, that's way too much. Cut the tracks off. If you want fans to listen to what the tracks that you want more music, then have them release like a separate project, more like a reissue to your original album. Like what Jay-Z said, like Jay-Z did. He released Blueprint 0.1 because I think Jay-Z knew he had too much music on the Blueprint 2, and he knew that fans would want more music. So I was like, you know what? Instead of releasing like a deluxe version so I won't have to stuff my original album, let me do a reissue version on a separate project that ties in with my original album. Let me do like a 2.1 or 2.5 where I had songs that were supposed to be on my original album, but I'm gonna release it as like either a reissue album or maybe a EP. Like, because, you know, EP goes up to 8 tracks that did not make the cut. I would do it that way. So I believe that was like a smart strategy on J on Jay-Z's part. But let's continue.
A lot of filler. I might get some hate for saying that, but if you look at a lot of people's list of when they rank Jay-Z's album, Blueprint 2 is almost always at the bottom or freaking near the bottom. Like, yo, but like, if you look at it, then if this not true, then why did Jay-Z double back and release this? But anyway, the project contained 3 new songs, which were Stop, La La La, and Beware Remix. The following month in May, we have the infamous signing of Dirt McGirt, aka ODB, who signed to Roc-A-Fella Records. There was a big press conference for the announcement, and it was just wild. Mariah Carey was there. I think that one of the reporters in the crowd said something like, "Do you realize that Damon Dash is gonna screw you?" Like, Dame. First off, that's just
OBD.
like funny. But Dame gave ODB a rock chain, which I'll talk about all the rock chains like at the end of this episode, and there were just many more. You guys can find clips online, and it's sad because ODB's time at the Rock was so short, especially due to him passing in November of the next year in 2004. Definitely had to send out an RIP to ODB.
Right.
The next release on the Rock didn't happen until August of that year when State Property released The Chain Gang Volume 2. And it sucks that a big part of this album can't be streamed on streaming services, at least Spotify for sure. This is State Property's final studio album as we know today, and it sold 69,000 copies in its first week and peaked at number 6 on the Billboard 200 chart. What's interesting about this album that I didn't know is that the song with the Young Guns called Can't Stop Won't Stop was later nominated at the Grammys and lost to Shake Your Tail Feather by Nelly, Diddy, and Murphy Lee. Also, Can't Stop Won't Stop reached number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, so it was really a hit. But as I said earlier, this ended up being the last State Property album. As I said in the last episode, Beanie Siegel around this time was going through a lot of legal trouble with incidents like in January of 2003, Beanie was arrested for allegedly punching a 53-year-old man in the face, which would fracture his eye socket. In July of 2003, Beanie turned himself into Philadelphia police and was charged with attempted murder after allegedly firing 6 shots from a 9mm handgun at a club door, which would injure 2 people. He was also charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, and possession of a criminal instrument. Yeah, Beanie Siegel was in some deep, deep trouble. And in 2004, Beanie was sentenced to a year in federal prison in Philadelphia on a gun possession charge, stemming from a traffic stop where Beanie jumped from his car and ran and allegedly tossed away a loaded gun. Beanie's relationship with State Property went sour while he was in jail. More on the fallout of State Property in the last episode. Less than a week later, after the Chain Gang album, Jewels would drop his debut album From Me to You, as it peaked at number 8 on the Billboard 200 charts, selling 74,000 copies in its
I'll be
first
right back,
week.
y'all. I do apologize. I'll be right back. I'm not take a break, but, be right back. My bad, y'all. I do apologize for taking taking a break for a moment like that. I was trying to get some more food, and then yeah. But let's continue.
As many already know, Juelz is a member of Dipset, and he was the young gun of the group. He was the prince and destined to be the king, and he had all the tools to be the star. Just to see what I mean, here's a clip of Juelz freestyling back in 1999. He was like 16 or 17 in this video.
Can't stop the copper topper. When I stop, drop, and pop ya. Right. Peel off in the drop with the top dropped and watch ya. Woo. Body shaking, body aching. Get out the car, hit him again, cause he probably faking. You gotta make sure you stay raw, whether you living out here or behind the state walls. And I love it when y'all say the rich get richer. Right. All that mean to me is that the clips get bigger. Know what it is? Hate to see me stroking your whiz. Come in the house, I'm on the couch, holding your kids. Got niggas running in coke spot, shoddy pumping, and then pop my front and they gon' body something. Smoke the bomb till I hear the smoke alarm. Fuck you cops, y'all niggas can't hold the dawn. Yeah.
Juelz really had that potential, but unfortunately, the album didn't receive critical acclaim throughout the industry. The album was led by one single, which was Dipset Santana's Town, which is absolutely, bro, fire. Pure fire. That beat is insane. And that song was actually nominated for Best Rap Performance by a duo or group at the Grammys in 2004. A couple months after this album, Jay-Z released what at the time was marketed as his last album, which was the Black Album. They even made a film about it, calling it Fade to Black, which is definitely a great watch. I saw it for the first time in full this past winter break when I was on a break from college. And yo, it's just great. Just go watch it, go peep it out. As some already know, Jay-Z always had this thing with contemplating retirement, and it's not a big secret. He's talked about it, and even Dame Dash, along with others, have openly talked about how every album could have been Jay-Z's last. But this time, it really was built up to be his real retirement. We all know now that Jay-Z came back out of retirement, but at the time, it must have most definitely seemed real at the moment. Here's a clip of Jay talking about retirement.
Glad to have you here. It's an honor to have you here. You're retiring. Two words. I never thought I'd put Jay-Z and you're retiring in the same sentence. I got to get to the question everyone wants to know: why?
I'm killing that hat. Like I thought my first album was gonna be my one and only. You know what I'm saying? But the business, we moved Roc-A-Fella from Priority to Def Jam, so I had a contract to fulfill. So every album, it was like that. Like, this could be the last, this could be the last. And then I got to a point where I was making like an album a year, every year since 96. So I was like, what more can I say as a solo artist? I just don't want to get to the point where I'm just going through the motions. You know what I'm saying?
Where you're making albums just for the sake of making albums.
Yeah.
On a side note, earlier in 2003, in May, actually, the movie Death of a Dynasty came out, and honestly, this movie was pretty much made as a joke about the fall of Roc-A-Fella Records and the beef with Jay-Z and Dame Dash. But the funny thing about the movie is that most of the stuff in the movie became true. But we'll get into that in the last episode. The first single for the album was Change Clothes, which featured Pharrell and was produced by the Neptunes, which released over a week before the album was released. This song is an ode to dressing better and losing.
I like that song. From the Black Album, I love that song. Change clothes. And Pharrell killed the hook on that song. One of my favorites off the Black Album.
The throwback jerseys that was on fire at the time. Jay was really growing as a person and was starting to dress more professional, suits and things of that nature. In regard to the recording process for the song, Jay said this: I look at tracks like a puzzle, almost like that Matrix scene. I look at it, and the first thing I do is to listen to it. I say, what does the track make me feel? Change Clothes made me feel like it was a good time, like a groove. And after that, I figure out what I'm going to flow to on the track, whether it's going to be the snare or the hi-hat. I figure out what part of the song I'm going to rhyme to, and then I start from there. And then I rhyme to every little part of the song. I try to catch everything. The second single for the album was Dirt Off Your Shoulder, and it was produced by Timbaland. In regards to the track, Jay-Z came out and said, it was some weird saying that I came up with. No idea where it came from. I think when Tim played the track early on, it had a brushing sound in it. I started messing with lyrics and brushing off haters. It just evolved one night in Miami. Same with the best.
Oh, oh man, Dirt on My Shoulder, another song that's one of my favorites, including the instrumental, the production. I got to give props for Timberland for this because that was a fire beat he produced. The Dirt Off My Shoulder. I think I got the sounding wrong, but I love that production.
Rapper at Livestream. It had gotten to the point where Biggie and Pop were such gods in hip hop, you weren't supposed to want to be better than them. It was time to address that. It was a respectful way of saying, I'm the best. The last single for the album was 99 Problems. It was produced by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin, in an interview, gathered some insight behind the track by saying, Jay didn't have any lyrics in place. I played him the track and he loved it. I told him this idea that Chris Rock had about 99 Problems. He said that there's this Ice-T song called 99 Problems, and the hook is really great, and there's probably an interesting song to be made with that hook. So talk to Jay about that. Jay actually wrote the first verse to the song in 20 minutes. Each verse in the song discusses a different type of, so if y'all know the hook of the song, do you know what I'm talking about? Verse 1 opens up with Jay-Z's critique of the incorrect critiques given to him by music critics and their failure to see his true genius. The second verse, Jay actually wrote down according to Rick Rubin, and the second verse is about Jay's run-in with the police and why the police would harass him because he's black and because his hat's real low. The third verse is actually basically about a dude being soft and not going to do anything to Jay-Z. The film Fade to Black, though, would come out in November of 2004, and it revolves around the making of the Black Album and Jay's sold out 2003 performance at Madison Square Garden. There are so many highlights in this film. A few things besides the performance, which was filled with many guests that all did their thing, by the way. We have Timberland making the beat to Dirt Off Your Shoulders, the making of 99 Problems, and Kanye previewing different beats to Jay-Z. Jay's reaction to when Kanye dropped that beat for Dope Man is priceless. And when Kanye played him Lucifer, that was just crazy. The last album by an artist to be released on The Rock in 2003 was Memphis Bleek's Made, and it managed to peak at number 35 on the Billboard 200 chart, although it did manage to go gold in the future. The album was backed by the singles Everything's a Go with Jay-Z and Round Here with T.I. and Trick Daddy. Bleek would go on to explain that the label tried to push the Everything is a Go single as the first single, but Bleek was adamant that Round Here will be more successful. He ended up being right, and in the interview, Bleek said they didn't even want to make it the single. They tried to push Everything's a Go. Everything's a Go ain't work. Jay we gotta go. You just pick a song and we gotta go with it. I said, let's go Around Here. He you sure? I'm like, trust me. 2004, in my opinion, is the last year of the real prime of Roc-A-Fella. I felt like by the end of this year, The Rock had truly ran its course, and this wasn't the same, and I'll explain that later. The first person to drop in 2004 from The Rock was Kanye West with The College Dropout in February of 2004. In the second episode of this series, I really got into the backstory of Kanye, but it was mainly about him being a producer. But those who know Kanye would know that Kanye is both a producer and rapper. But back in the day, Kanye was very, and when I say very, very overlooked, even by his peers. I mean, this video is of Kanye rapping his heart out in the studio before The College Dropout. And Kanye would say people didn't really care about his raps, but only really wanted him for his beats. Kanye was a successful producer at this time. I mean, he had gold and platinum records, but he still really wanted to rap. The thing about Kanye is that during this time in hip-hop, it was all about that gangster image and rappers being hard and street dudes. But Kanye wasn't that. Kanye was actively searching for a record deal, and he would get denied multiple times, like the story I told in the last episode. But the final straw was when Capitol Records pulled out of a deal with Kanye, and then Dame Dash came in and finally signed Kanye to Roc-A-Fella because he didn't want Kanye to go nowhere else. In an interview, Dame said, "I personally signed Kanye, and I want to take credit for that because I felt good that I believed in him and saw his vision. What I didn't see was how big his vision was and how he was going to attack it himself. He's like me and Jay put into one. He's a businessman, he's an artist, and he's a producer. On a bigger level, he's positive." It's kind of sad that it took all this to get Kanye signed, and it almost took him leaving to get a deal. And it's probably because they didn't want to let go one of their best producers, even though I think that Kanye said that he wasn't even really signed to The Rock. He just happened to make a whole bunch of beats for them. I really want to touch more on this topic that I'm about to talk about in the next episode, but Dame was really feeling the pressure of what was going to happen with Jay-Z retiring. He needed some new talent, and that's why he was trying to push Cameron. He signed ODB, tried to sign Twista, was trying to get Beanie Siegel, push Beanie Siegel, all that. But here's some clips of Kanye West pre-college dropout, rapping in the studio in 2002. He was really spitting, and it's just crazy that nobody saw the talent until Kanye forced her hand.
While you in that hats back and try to sell work and don't get shit from them packs back and try to rap and studios don't give you your dats back and try to get published and all you get is your ass capped and that's that. I go to Jacob with 25,000, you go with 2,500. I got 11 plaques on my walls right now. You got your first gold single. Damn, nigga. Wow. I just bought my mom a new car and a house, and that's a lot to save for a college dropout. I drove to New York with $10 to my name and brought back a couple platinum plaques on the plane and brought back
Hey, that was a fire freestyle. No matter how much you feel about Kanye West, including myself, you know, I have my issues with Kanye as well from a fan's perspective, but you can't deny the guy is very talented when it comes to production and then when it comes to his artistry. Can't deny that. But let's continue.
The stain, the steel, got lyrics in my heart I can't restrain. They real, man, I swear to God, I wish I had $1 bill for every time a nigga told me stick to the beast. I could've ate a cheesecake at least 6 times a week. I could've killed these niggas on that lyrical shit. Mayonnaise color Benz, I push miracle whips.
The first single for the college dropout was still The Wire, and it released in September of 2003. In October of 2003, literally 2 weeks.
That's one of my favorite songs off the college dropout.
After he signed his deal, Kanye crashed his car and fractured his jaw. Here's a clip going more in depth with what happened.
Kanye was in the hospital for a while, and his face was all messed up. He had to get his jaw rewired.
The accident was like one of those life-changing events.
The dream could have been over that night. Could have died, man.
I think that the accident made Kanye appreciate life, but more so opportunity.
He waited a day and got back to working.
In his hospital bed, I mean, he was thinking of beats, thinking of raps, thinking of ways to be successful.
As soon as he gets out of the hospital, he goes check himself up in the W Hotel and had a studio in his hotel room.
He was just working on music, having different artists come through, knocking out joints.
Literally right out the hospital, Kanye started
That's
recording,
crazy.
and he would end up making Through the Wire. There's actually different versions of the song. A lot of people think that the version that we have now on the album is actually him rapping with his mouth wired shut. But in actuality, the song wasn't actually completely redone. There is actually the wired shut version and the one that he recorded afterwards. And he laid the two on top of each other and used the non-wired shut version to help with some parts where the pronunciation was off. Another thing about the song is that Kanye removed the line from the original version where he said that he was in the same hospital that Biggie and Tupac died. But that's false. Pac wasn't in the same hospital, and only Biggie was. The next single was Slow Jams, and it released in December of 2003, and it was a smash hit for Kanye. It would peak at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart.
Classic. Classic song with Jamie Foxx and Twista. Classic. If you think of slow jam, when you listen to a real like a club banger and especially song a song that's more for the women that you can dance for the women that you can dance with, that was the song. Like Jamie Foxx doing the chorus, Twista and Kanye both having verses. Classic. Let's continue. Very classic.
It stayed on the charts for 22 weeks, and the song ended up being nominated for a Grammy in 2005 for Best Rap Song Collaboration. Into how the song came about, Twista said, when Kanye played it back to me with Jamie Foxx on it, I was like, that's phenomenal. But what took it to the next level was when Jay-Z was like, what's up with that song that you and Kanye got? That Slow Jams track. I was like, yeah, he asked me to get on it. He said, I think that's a good look. That should come out as the first single for both of y'all. So Jay-Z was actually the one that put Slow Jams being a single into effect. The College Dropout was released in February of 2004, where it peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, selling 441,000 copies, which upon doing my research, this is only 20,000 copies less of what Jay-Z sold first week for the Black Album, which is something to me that's actually pretty crazy. I didn't even know that. As we all know today, Kanye was going to be a megastar after this album, but that's a story for another day. In the same month of February, the Young Guns will release their debut album, which was Tough Love, and it peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Young Guns were still feeling the success of Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and on the album, they dropped a remix with Chingy. They also released the single No Better Love with singer Rel, and a bunch of people have been asking me about what happened to Rel, so I gave you a quick little backstory. Rel is a singer from South Carolina who signed to The Roc in 1997 and got his big break in 1998 by appearing in The Streets Is Watching and contributing to the song Love for Free. His debut album will be shelved due to the failed charting of his album singles. In 2001, Rel began to rework on his debut album, and it was supposed to come out in 2002, but it would be shelved again. Up to this point in the story, 2004, Rel began to work on a new project, which was called Long Time Coming. The next album to come out after the Young Guns was Unfinished Business with Jay-Z and R. Kelly. And after Jay and R. Kelly reconnected at the Fade to Black show, a decision was made for them to continue the work of Best of Both Worlds and the use of the leftover songs that they had from those sessions. Here is a clip of Jay-Z talking about the album and his rumored Def Jam presidency.
So, right off the bat, I gotta ask you, since you're here to talk about your new album with R. Kelly, does this mean you're officially out of retirement?
No. What happened was, I did the Garden thing last year, like to kick off the whole farewell tour, and the response of it was so crazy that we put out a tour. And when you put out a tour, we was gonna put out 2 new records and put out the original album, but we made like 11 new records in 4 days.
Man.
But this was just unfinished business.
Unfinished business. But you know what? That's what you are. You're a man of the people. I mean, we know you're retired and all, but you got to do what you got to do when you tour, with the album, with everything else.
Once we seen that, that's what the people really wanted. We had to put it together.
That's why he did it for y'all. For y'all. Well, now listen, we've been hearing around here too. Some buzz has been going around about maybe you becoming the president of Def Jam. Do you think
President
you want to
Carter,
take
huh?
I like that. Vote or die, President Carter.
Yeah. Nothing signed or official, but there's a lot of different things in there, and I'm really appreciative of the respect level that they showing me out there. So it's good. We'll see what happens.
People felt like the first album was uninspired and was the worst effort from both artists. You also have to realize, too, that despite the scandal R. Kelly was going through, literally a year later, in 2003, he dropped Chocolate Factory with the Ignition remix and Step in the Name of Love. Chocolate Factory literally went platinum in 3 weeks. This new record Jay-Z and R. Kelly was working on wasn't plagued by the problems of the first. And the video for their first single, Big Chips, was released prior to the album's release. The single would peak at number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The album was released in October of 2004 and peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling 215,000 copies in its first week. R. Kelly and Jay-Z toured on the back of the release with a tour titled Best of Both Worlds Tour, and it ended in a disaster. In September of 2004, Jay-Z and R. Kelly were supposed to have a concert in Illinois, and it was the first show of the tour. R. Kelly complained that Jay-Z's crew sabotaged his performance by messing with the lights to ruin his show. The next day, R. Kelly is 2 hours late to their planned show. After that, for the next couple of weeks, everything seemed like it was doing good. And then in mid-October, Jay-Z left the show early due to a family emergency. He would then later be found at Usher's birthday party that same night. Like, oh man, some of this stuff you cannot make up. But less than a week later, R. Kelly cut a show short, and it's alleged that R. Kelly assaulted a lighting technician on the show, but no charges were pressed. After this, shows in Hartford, Connecticut, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin were canceled. Finally, on October 28th, we have the infamous Madison Square Garden incident. Prior to the show, allegedly, R. Kelly gets a call and alludes to someone potentially wanting to take his life. While R. Kelly was performing, he told the audience that he thought that he saw some people flash some guns at him. R. Kelly would go to his dressing room, and Jay-Z will go on stage and say that there was indeed no guns in the crowd. R. Kelly would try to come back on stage, and then Jay-Z's longtime friend, I don't know about allegedly, but pepper sprayed R. Kelly in the face. R. Kelly will be taken to the hospital while Jay-Z had a monster night, bringing out Mary J. Blige, Usher, and T.I. The day after the incident, Jay and R. Kelly would call into Angie Martinez's show and tell their sides of the story. In November, R. Kelly would sue Jay-Z for $75 million.
Wow.
Then months later, Jay would countersue for $10 million. Jay and R. Kelly would later settle out of court for an undisclosed amount. Here's a clip of Jay talking about the problems with R. Kelly.
So, right off the top, a lot is going on. Jay-Z, R. Kelly, the concert went down. R. Kelly walked off the stage. Now, if you live in New York, we heard you on the radio with Angie Martinez and all that, but a lot of people don't know exactly what went down. So from your mouth, just tell us what happened.
I really don't know what went down. You know what I'm saying? We had a lot of different things that happened on the tour. You know, we missed a lot of different dates. You know what I'm saying? That became frustrating to me because, you know, I mean, people pay their hard-earned money and they wait 30 days and on the 31st date, and it's a tour canceled, and my name is on that, so people are like, them, you know, they're canceling tours, and they're doing this, and they're walking off stage. Then at the Garden, it really just reached the all-time point where it could be dangerous, because, you know, when people start saying they see guns and different things like that, and there's 20,000 people in the building, like, imagine if people would have panicked and they start rioting, and then people got trampled and different things like that, and you know, that wouldn't hold well in my conscience, so I couldn't do that no more. That was the end of that for me.
Jay would then go on to release the collaborative album with Linkin Park called Collision Course. MTV had originally planned on matching up only 1 or 2 songs, but the project was eventually expanded to a 6-song album. The production on the album was mostly handled by Mike Shinoda and Jay-Z. The album spawned one single, Numb Encore, which won Best Rap Song Collaboration at the 48th Grammy Awards. The album peaked at number 1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart, selling 368,000 copies in its first week. Jay-Z and Mike held a mutual respect for one another, and even though it was designed as a mashup album, there are parts of each other's works that were re-recorded altogether to make the project sound just right. The last album to be released in 2004 was Cameron's Purple Haze. The album peaked at number 20 on the Billboard 200 charts with 120,000 copies sold in the first week. There are a couple songs that I want to talk about on this album. Let's first discuss the song Killer Cam, and fun fact, it was the first song to be broke down on the site Genius. Actually, according to Pitchfork, Purple Haze is actually the album that launched 1,000 rap blogs. The song is named after Cam's longtime nickname Killer Cam from his Children of the Corn days, which was a group that was made by Big L, R.I.P. Big L, and it consisted of Cameron's cousin Bloodshed, R.I.P. to Bloodshed too, Mace, Cam himself, and Herb McGruff. The next track I want to talk about on the album is the song Down and Out, which was produced by Kanye and Brian All Day Miller. And it's funny because Kanye has said that this is his favorite beat that he didn't really do. Cam has said that Down and Out came about when Kanye was in the studio with him playing beats. And Cam did his verse, but Kanye had an idea for the chorus. Cam knew Kanye really wanted to be an artist, so Cam let Kanye rock out. Cam had seen Kanye in the studio rapping 45 minutes straight over his beats, and Cam began to realize that he could really spit and knew how rare it was for a producer to not only rap, but to rap good. Purple Haze, though, prior to release, was actually delayed multiple times, and there were rumors that Cameron wasn't happy with the promotion of his album Purple Haze. I mean, his first album on the Rock went #2 and sold 226,000 copies in his first week and went on to be platinum. And then 2 years later, Cam drops Purple Haze, and then he peaked at #20 on the Billboard 200 charts with 123,000 copies sold in the first week. It had only been 2 years, and Cam was still hot because Come Home With Me went platinum, and then the Dipset album went gold by this time. So I don't think that it was a matter of Cam cooling off because he was still hot, at least from an outside perspective. Less than a week after the release of Purple Haze, though, the final 50% ownership stake Dame J and Biggs had in Roc-A-Fella was sold to Island Def Jam Music Group in December of 2004. Leor Cohen was the president of Island Def Jam and a big mentor to Jay-Z, but he left Island Def Jam to go run Warner Music Group, which caused Island Def Jam to replace him with L.A. Reid, who got into it with the president of Def Jam, who at the time was Kevin Liles. Kevin Liles would leave Def Jam to join Leor Cohen at Warner, which caused an empty president spot at Def Jam. This position was offered to Jay, in addition to a clause that granted Jay to get his masters back for his previous recordings. The only thing in Jay's possession that he doesn't completely 100% own is Reasonable Doubt, because Dame and Biggs refused to give up their share. Jay tried to get it and let Dame and Biggs keep Roc-A-Fella, but Dame at first was okay with it. But Biggs said no, and Dame changed his mind. Before I close this episode out, I want to get into the history of the Roc-A-Fella chain. It was a huge honor to receive a Roc-A-Fella chain, and everybody got theirs for different reasons. It's believed, besides Jay, obviously, and Dame and Biggs, Bleak is one of the first to get a Roc-A-Fella chain because he was one of the first artists to sign to the Rock. According to Wayno, a former Roc-A-Fella employee, he said that Freeway got his chain after the infamous Hot 97 freestyle in 2001. ODB got his at the press conference that we talked about earlier. Young Chris got his around when Jay-Z was working on the Blueprint 2. Neef got his around the Second State Property album, and Kanye got his when he was performing in Chicago. This was around the time that he signed and was before the college dropout. A cool little side story is that Beanie Siegel actually saved Kanye from getting robbed and his chain being stolen. The story goes that Kanye was at a diner, and then a couple of strangers had sat down with him and his friends while they were eating. Kanye will put out a call to Beans, who came to the diner and muscled the potential robbers away. In an interview, Beanie said he felt threatened. I let the potential robbers know nothing was going down. Not while I was there. Nothing was going to happen to Kanye. Kanye wasn't being paranoid. They had chairs put up to his table while he was eating with his friends, and they wasn't eating. It was real. Their plates of food was cold. They ate only a couple bites. It was like a wait off, like hurry up and would you come out here? It was going down. And I asked Kanye, yo, do you know this guy right here? He was like, nah. And I just pulled the chair from under him. And Kanye had his jewelry tucked in on him. And I was like, take a chain out. That was like a badge, that Roc-A-Fella chain. The Jackers reacted to me as they should and took a little more than a few steps back. That's some real stuff though. Like, yo, like I'm not even gonna lie. Like Beanie was super real for that. But yeah, those were just a couple examples of people who got their chains and why. There's quite a few people that got chains. All in all, this will conclude this episode in the series. Tell me what you guys think so far and what you guys want me to talk about in the final episode. Because trust me, I will talk about the behind the scenes stuff, Like, for instance, like the infamous incident where Dame Dash went off on that people in the meeting about the Black album. Like, that's just one example, because people in this episode will probably say, oh, like, you missed it, you lost over it, blah, 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 when that's not true, because we're going to talk about it in the next episode. Also, let me know if you would have did what Jay-Z did when he was offered to take the president position to get his masters back. I'm not going to hold you much longer. Next episode will probably be the craziest, and I'm going to get the story from multiple angles. Biggs, Dame, Jay, State Property, Choke No Joke, Dipset, Memphis Bleak, etc. Love you guys. Peace.
That's crazy. When the way you look at it. Like, in all honesty, like, you know, from a standpoint, I never thought that Kanye was about to get robbed for his chain. And shout out to Beanie Siegel. That takes courage. But let's continue. All right, this is the fourth and final episode, and then I'll give a short final thoughts of it. Let's get it. All right, but before we continue, be right back once again. I apologize. My fault. But we're back. Let's continue.
Sparks, Indy 500. How did your fucking dog know rap? I live my life on the edge and y'all don't wanna push me. Mommy keep giving me head cause I don't want your foot.
Like I said in the first episode of this series, the sad thing about dynasties are that unfortunately almost all of them have to come to an end. No king can rule forever. The good thing though is that the legacy of those dynasties will live on forever through the members of that dynasty and the people who will forever have memories of the glory days. I know some people in the comments have said that Roc-A-Fella wasn't the best label because only Jay was really selling, and I mean that's not all the way true because other people besides Jay went platinum and gold. Cam went platinum and gold along with Dipset who went gold. Bleak has 2 gold albums. Beanie has a gold album. Kanye went multi-platinum with multiple albums, but 1 album in their prime, if you want to look at it like that, etc. The thing about Roc-A-Fella is that, yeah, maybe collectively with everybody, they didn't sell the most records, but the talent that they had was truly undeniable. I mean, you had Jay-Z, who people consider to be one of the best rappers ever, and Beanie Sigel, who a lot of people think is one of the most underrated rappers ever. The Young Guns, who were absolutely fire. And come on, man, like Neef was fire. But Young Chris was just different. All respect to Neef, and I mean no disrespect to anyone at all, but Young Chris was crazy nice. Freeway's first album is a classic. I don't care what anyone says. Freeway can really spit. Oschino and Emilio was nice in their own rights. Petey Crack, along with Oschino and Emilio, never got a solo album, but Petey was super duper fire. That freestyle I played in the intro, classic. Prime Petey over Just Blaze and Kanye beats would have been nasty. Then you had Dipset, who had a whole movement along with State Property in their own right. But if you break down Dipset, then you have Cameron, who was a star in his own right. And to me, minus the politics and all that, he could have really took over the rap game after Jay left and been one of them ones and would have been one of, if not the face of the rock. Then you have Jewels, who was the prince and soon to be the king, just like Petey Crack. But instead, Jewels got a chance to release a solo album. Jewels was a young and up-and-comer, and he was hungry for that top spot. Bleak was doing his thing, and I know I said a couple things about Bleak and how he was under Jay, but all that aside, Bleak was actually nice back in the day, and you do not go gold twice for no reason at all. And on top of that, you have DJ Clue. I mean, like, is we like being serious here? Obviously, that's not everybody on the rock, but even though people might look at the sales, the potential all these people had was insane. It's just sad things ended the way that they did. Just imagine if that never happened and where the rap game would be now. Before I get more into the video, I would first like to thank you guys for coming to see this, because you guys can be doing a million other things right now, but instead you're here with me and I appreciate that. If you guys like the content, you guys should like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. I reply to all the comments and I love going through them and seeing what you guys think. Also, follow my Instagram too. That would be greatly appreciated. You guys can DM me some video ideas or just show me some love. It's all good. Comment down below your favorite artist or group on the rock and why. Favorite project, favorite mixtape. Also, represent where you're from in the comment section below. I want to see where y'all are tuning in at. Definitely represent where you're from. Without further ado, I give you the documentary of Roc-A-Fella, Part 4, The Fall of the Roc. What I'm about to do before I get into the nitty gritty of what this video is about, which is what led to the fall of Roc-A-Fella,
all right, here we go.
Give a synopsis of what happened to Roc-A-Fella after 2005, before we break down what happened to people individually. When Jay split from Damon Biggs, basically the roster of people that were signed to Roc-A-Fella had to make a choice. Do you want to go with Damon Biggs or go with Jay-Z? I saw an interview with Emilio on DJ Vlad, and he said that it wasn't like that, and that literally they ripped a piece of a sheet in half, and one sheet went with Jay and the other went with Dame. These are two completely different things. And I say this all the time that I was not there during these events. And literally in 2005, I was like 4, depending on when it happened. But I'm just trying to give multiple perspectives from different people of what happened in these events. Despite this, from my knowledge, Beanie, MOP, Cam with Dipset, and some others went with Dame. Dame also brought ODB's masters to the rapper's album A Son Unique with him, but to this day it has never been released. The Young Guns, Bleak, Kanye, and Freeway, along with some others, went with Jay. Dame would start to get his new label up and going, initially calling it Rock for Life, before changing it to Damon Dash Music Group. It was set to still be an imprint under Universal, but not under the control of Def Jam, which Jay-Z was president of. So as the reason why this was probably done is because Dame probably didn't want to have to report to Jay-Z. Dame Dash's deal would soon fall apart after allegedly constantly pissing off executives by trying to get a bigger role in Universal to get to the same level as Jay-Z was.
That's crazy. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of like the real reason why Dame Dash and Jay-Z kind of went all wrong. Because Jay-Z ended up selling, I guess, his share of Roc-A-Fella to Def Jam, and then he became the president. And of course, Biggs went to doing his thing, and of course, Dame Dash went on to do his thing as well. So if you guys hear it, Dame decided to start his own record label called Dame Dash Music Group, which all the people from The Rock that was on Roc-A-Fella, half of them went with Dame Dash, the other half went with Jay-Z. So it became like a battle of Roc-A-Fella. It was like Jay-Z versus Dame Dash in terms of labels. But let's continue.
Because Jay was the president of Def Jam at this time. People also have been asking what happened to Roc-A-Ware. And the deal that happened with Roc-A-Ware is that Roc-A-Ware grew to be a big company. Just a couple things on how big it was is that in just 2002, the brand racked up sales of about 120 million. And in 2003, they had sales of over 300 million. In 2005, Roc-A-Ware had sales of over 700 million. Dame has said that he sold his interest in Roc-A-Ware to be completely independent, and he sold his share in the company for $22 million. Now, $22 million is a lot of money. I'm not even going to front like it's not, because just for a regular everyday person, that is a lot of money. Jay-Z would sell the rights to the Roc-A-Ware brand to the Iconics brand group for $204 million. It will retain his stake in the company, and at this point will continue to oversee the marketing, licensing, and product development. Jesus, I know Dame was hurting when that happened. Man, if he kept his share, he would have had $51 million.
Oh, man. Bad business move, Dame. Bad business move. And I think that's another reason why Jay-Z and Dame Dash had to fall out due to money. Because you could tell Jay-Z was a smart businessman. Because if Jay-Z would have also sold his share of Roc-A-Ware, Jay-Z would not be a billionaire right now. If Jay-Z would have sold his share, he would have got screwed. And then he had to find a way to make money again. So that's the reason why you got to look at this. When you're a businessman, you got to make the smart decisions. Do I sell my share or do I keep it? And Jay-Z was obviously smart. He kept his business share. He kept his share of Roc-A-Ware because he knew that if Roc-A-Ware continues to grow, it would generate more money. But over $700 million, insane. And that's the reason why why Jay-Z is so smart and why he's a billionaire. because he kept moving in a smart way. He's like, nah, I'm not going to give up my stuff. I'm not going to give up any of my shares, anything that relates to me, whether it's my music, my entrepreneur side with my clothing line with Roc-A-Wear, or any other business venture. I'm not giving that up. I'm keeping my money. Dame. So really, in reality, Dame can't blame Jay-Z for his own downfall. He can't blame that because you gave up half of your share of Roc-A-Fella. You gave up half of your share with Roc-A-Wear. You basically gave up a half of your percentage to protect your own, which I'm not, if you want to protect it, but Dame should have looked more over the papers. And I'm reading from a perspective of a fan or a perspective of a businessman, of a business person. If Dame would have had, I'm pretty sure if Dame Dash would have had a lawyer, if whoever his lawyer at the time, or if he did have a lawyer, his lawyer would have told him, hey man, are you sure you want to do this? Because they may offer you more money than you could possibly have. But if you give up your share, you may not get nothing in return. Somebody at that time should have told Dame, I think you'd be smart. I think it wouldn't be smart if you give up your share. Just keep it. Because you're building a lot of money. You don't want to start from scratch all over again and then have to build yourself up again. Yeah, so Dame really messed himself up. So looking back, now looking at this documentary, kind of makes me look at Dame differently, like more differently than ever. Because, and like I said, I'm not a big I'm not a whole Venger. Like I'm not a fan of Jay-Z's not my favorite rapper, but I do acknowledge Jay of his music and what he contribute to the culture. But this right here, this is not smart of Dame Dash. This is where I look at it as, yeah, Dame, you got to take the L with this. You basically messed up your career by not taking deals that were offered to you to help you grow your reputation and your celebrity status even bigger. That's how I look at it. But let's continue.
Because Jay-Z had a quarter along with Dame. But back to the label though. After the breakup of Dame, Biggs, and Jay in 2004, Roc-A-Fella was not the same at all, but people were still dropping on the label. Tierra Marie dropped her debut album in 2005, which had poor sales, which ended up in her being dropped from the label. Also in 2005, the label Roc-La-Familia was established and was a sub-label that focused on signing international acts. Only 2 official albums have been dropped on this label, and it was Hector El Father's Los Rompe Discotecas and Nori's Nori y La Familia Ya Tu Sabe. Both projects would release in 2006. Houston-based Colombian rapper Aztec Escobar was the first artist signed to the label, and the other people on the label were Dimitri El Boss and True Life. The label is now defunct, and it's a shame because it just seems like this was way ahead of its time in regards to how international music is now, where we have artists like Bad Bunny, Daddy Yankee.
Oh man, it's unfortunate that another one, Roc-La-Familia, never took off either. Like, I'm pretty sure myself, I would have to say that True Life could have had so much potential and could have been one of the biggest international stars under Roc-A-Fella at the time. He would have been something big. But, of course, remember at the time, Dame, Jay had a falling out, and of course, Dame, Jay, and Biggs ended up selling their share of Roc-A-Fella to Def Jam. So yeah, it was unfortunate that Roc-La-Familia could never took off, never could have been something big. But like I said, True Life could have had so much potential. And same thing can go with same thing goes with Tia Marie. I felt like, Tia Marie, I think she was very underrated as an R&B singer. She could have been something big as well. And it's only sad that this is only her one album throughout her whole career. After that, and she released mixtapes, but it didn't really hit. And then she had a song, but then in late 2009 and early 2010, I think around that time, she had a hit record though. It failed to maybe gain a lot of traction, but it was such a good song. She has a hit record called Sponsor featuring Gucci Mane and Soulja Boy. Like, that song is a hit. It's a hit record. And it's kind of like I'm not gonna hold y'all. That was like one of my favorite records off that she ever dropped. Just want to give y'all a little backstory on that. But let's continue.
Artists like Bad Bunny, Daddy Yankee, who's been out for a long time, but he's really popular in the scene, and Anuel. I don't think any of y'all know this, but alongside me being black, I'm actually Native American and Mexican. I actually really mess with reggaeton and Latin music heavy. Growing up, my mom used to play that music all the time, especially Daddy Yankee. She used to also play a lot of Sean Paul, which is dancehall and Jamaican, which I'm also really into. My music taste is very diverse, and y'all only really get to hear me talk about rap in my videos. But if I told y'all all what I listen to, y'all would like lose y'all minds. Like, I can literally go from listening to some Beanie Man, then turn on some Rage Against the Machine, then some Roger Troutman, to some Isley Brothers, to some Tupac, then to some Playboy Cardi. Like, it's just really like a crazy scene. Let's skip to 2009, where Jadakiss would release his third studio album, The Last Kiss. Jadakiss had briefly moved to Roc-A-Fella during this time, and he began recording this album in 2008. The album had been delayed multiple times until it released in April of 2009, where the album peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200, selling 134,000 copies in its first week. The next year, in 2010, Dame Dash would come back into the music industry and attempt to sign the rapper Currency and get him to sign him to Blue Rock Records, which was the subdivision of Damon Dash's DD 172, which was a media collective. If y'all don't know, I'm a big Currency fan, and I actually did a video on him way back when I had like 50 subscribers. So you guys should definitely go check that out though. Unfortunately, in 2012, Currency filed a lawsuit against Dame for releasing 2 of his projects, Pilot Talk 1 and 2, without his permission, after their business deal didn't work out together, and Currency was with Warner Bros. Music. Currency claimed that Dame didn't have the rights to his music, nor did he give him that permission. In 2005, Dame and Currency was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. The last record to ever be released on Roc-A-Fella was Magna Carta Holy Grail, which is Jay-Z's 12th studio album. This album would truly finally be the end of Roc-A-Fella Records. However, in 2008, Roc Nation was founded by Jay-Z after securing a multi-year partnership with live events company Live Nation. Roc Nation is a full-service management, music publishing, and entertainment company. On the music side of things, Roc Nation has some pretty big artists under their belt, such as DJ Khaled, Rihanna, J. Cole, Meek Mill, Lil Uzi Vert, Megan Thee Stallion, etc. Now it's time to get into what happened to most of the people after the split of Roc-A-Fella Records in 2004. We'll start with Beans, and after the split, he was originally with Dame Dash, who he had released his third studio album, The Beat Comin' With, in March of 2005. The album was completed before Beanie served jail time in 2004. After this, Beanie ended up re-signing with Roc-A-Fella Records in 2006, where he would then release his fourth studio album, The Solution, in December of 2007. After this, Beanie would release a few more projects after his contracts with Roc-A-Fella Records and Def Jam Records had expired. I know at one point of time, Beanie was supposed to sign a deal with G-Unit after he got out of prison, but Jay-Z refused to release him from Def Jam in 2005. According to Beanie, 50 Cent wanted to give him a whole label deal and a whole lot of money, but Jay refused to release him. Jay would say that he would see what he could do, but that see what he could do turned into a whole other 2 years for Beans. The Young Guns released their second and last studio album and last album on Roc-A-Fella, Brothers from Another, in May of 2005. The sales of the project were somewhat of a disappointment compared to how their first album did. The album got decent exposure from the Swizz Beatz produced lead single Set It Off, promotion from Jay-Z himself, along with other things. After this, the Young Guns would release solo music throughout the years and would last release a mixtape together in 2005 called Back to Business. The two would then embark on solo careers and release their own projects. P.D. Crack's career was greatly affected by state property dissolving in the split of Roc-A-Fella. After the split, P.D. was considered a free agent, and Dame wanted to have a meeting with P.D. P.D. would then go to the meeting and notice some things were awfully off. He noticed that normally when he was around Dame and his people, that they usually took shots of Armandale, but today they were drinking out of the bottle and telling him to drink a bottle, and he kept doing toast. Like, that's just crazy. But yeah, PD got drunk and then Dame pulled out the paperwork, and PD said that he would sign a Dame for the right price. PD said a number, and then Dame offered him $10,000 to $15,000 according to PD. Like, crazy. But I'm sorry, but like Dame, like that was just wild. This is a wild counter offer. But PD said that they used to make that at certain shows, so that's kind of like an insult in my opinion. But Dame would then call Beans to talk to Petey. But Petey told Beans that he wasn't getting enough bread from Dame. So Beanie told Petey to take his Roc-A-Fella chain off and give it to Dame, because Petey was at the time wearing Beanie's Roc-A-Fella chain. Petey would then thank Dame and Biggs and walk out, but someone would come out and say that Dame added another $5,000 on whatever he proposed to Petey, and Petey just ignored it and laughed it off. Like, dude, once again, that's just a crazy story. But Petey would then eventually go back to Jay-Z and keep the same contract that he had before the split and work on his debut album that never got to see the light of day. In 2008, Petey was released from his contract and he made a couple diss tracks toward Jay-Z. But now in retrospect, Petey does appreciate the shot that Jay gave him. Freeway stayed with Jay after the breakup and took a lengthy hiatus. In an interview, Freeway said, "I just been grinding, you know, the whole Rock breakup really took a toll on me and kind of even held my career up a little bit. But I've been working and I'm ready to get back out. It was a couple of things. The whole family structure wasn't in place like it was. There was a time when I could just go to baseline and knock it out, but it wasn't like that this time." Freeway would drop his second studio album, Free at Last, in November of 2007, where his album peaked at number 42 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, selling 36,000 copies during his first week. It was first reported Jay-Z would step down as president of Def Jam in December of 2007, and shortly after this, Freeway announced his release from Def Jam. Freeway throughout the years would still continue releasing projects, and he would eventually end up reconnecting with Beanie Sigel. After the Roc-A-Fella split, Oschino went with Dame Dash, and the reason for this is because in an interview, Oschino said that you can't call Jay-Z and ask for $10,000 because you don't even know his phone number. He said that Dame did right by him because when Oschino got shot and he needed an appointment out in New Jersey, Dame got it done, and also paid $3,600 a month for Oschino's rent. Before doing my research on this video, I didn't really know a whole lot about Oschino. This man has gave a lot of insight behind what was going on in Roc-A-Fella. Oschino has called out Jay-Z for numerous things. Give It To Me on the Roc-La-Familia album was originally his and Emilio's song, but Oschino was in jail for murder at the time, and Jay-Z would add himself to the song, and Emilio just had the hook. He said that 1-900 Hustler was originally Freeway's song by himself. Oschino also said that Jay was very shook during the Nas beef and actually sent the people on the label to go at him. And the phrase that Jay would always say, according to Oschino, was act like they killed your cousin. But I'm sorry, but that's just hilarious and funny at the same time. But Oschino also said that Jay-Z used to steal raps, and he said that Jay would always have everybody rap their bars to him, and if you didn't have any bars offhand, that it was a problem. He said Jay-Z remembered every single word, which is just crazy in itself. There's always been allegations of Jay biting people. We all know Cam, Nas, and other people accused him of taking rhymes from Biggie, but I've seen people accuse him of taking rhymes from Young Chris especially, and really running with the whole Philly flow and everything. I think that people really say this around the Blueprint 2 era, which will make a lot of sense because according to Wayno, Jay-Z pulled Young Chris in around that time because Chris was going through a rough time due to his friend passing, I believe, and Jay really took him in under his wing and had him with him every day, and they were doing a lot of music. If you're from Philly, tell me what you think. Was Jay out here stealing y'all style like that? But yeah, Emilio and Sparks both had their own things going after the Roc, and I'm not trying to get too deep into it in state property because one day in the future I want to maybe, keyword maybe, do a state property doc. Don't ask me when because I have no clue at this moment. Like, I'm so backed up on these videos due to this doc literally taking like for almost 2 months. But yeah, but there's a lot of other videos I want to get out. But yeah, it's definitely on my list, like 100%, definitely on my list. Cameron, after the split of Roc-A-Fella, would join Warner Music Group under the Asylum Records imprint in 2005, and he would begin to work on his first project for the new label that ended up being titled Killer Season, which was released in May of 2006. On Killer Season, Cameron had, to me, one of the most underrated diss tracks of all time, if you ever heard it, and it's You Gotta Love It with Max B. I believe this is my 3rd time talking about this on my channel, but I don't want to beat it to death by saying that this song is wild, but it's just an understatement. If you haven't heard it yet, go look it up. But those who have know what I mean by Cam went in on Jay for multiple things. Cam said that Jay stole Rocawear, Roc-A-Fella, and Kanye West from Dame Dash. The Kanye part is low-key kind of true in my opinion because Dame did sign Kanye, as we said in the last episode. Back then, even though Kanye was trying to rap, people still overlooked him as a producer. Jay did, Dame did, everybody did. But when that deal that we talked about got pulled from Kanye, from my knowledge, it was Dame that signed him. Then Cam said that when he got shot before this album was released, he saw the shooter throw up a diamond sign. Cam was wildin', and even said, how was Jay-Z an 80s baby when he was born in 1968? Which is false because Jay was actually born in 1969, but still, you get it. How was Jay-Z the king of New York wearing chancletas and jeans? Like, that line cracks me up every time. And he said that he had Beyonce singing about crack on his 2nd album on the song Do It Again, which is actually true. Like, she was singing about crack with Destiny's Child. Like, Cam was wigging. Nowadays, Jay and Cam are on much better terms. Not friends, but on better terms. One thing people don't really know is that, of course, we all know Jay and Cam didn't really get along, but Jay never prevented Cam from dropping music while Cameron was on Roc-A-Fella. Cam and other people have said that despite all the drama between them, I believe Cam needed 5 or 6 signatures, and Jay-Z was one of them, and he always signed off. So I do commend Jay for that because that was 100. Since the Roc, Cam has dropped a ton of projects and still manages to stay relevant. His Instagram is pure comedy, and I must say, like, this dude is still hilarious. And his latest release, Purple Haze 2, is actually really solid. Cam has still got the bars. Joel Santana will release his second studio album, What the Game's Been Missing, through Diplomat and Def Jam Records in November of 2005. The album peaked at number 9 on the Billboard 200, selling 141,000 copies in its first week. The album did well, and Joel's was on fire at this time, especially since earlier that year, Joel's was featured on Chris Brown's Running, which went number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 5 straight weeks. Absolutely crazy. After this,
Fire.
Joel's would go on a legendary mixtape run with Lil Wayne, which I'm actually thinking about doing a video about, would start Skull Gang, and Dipset would break up due to a multitude of things, but mainly the tension with Jim Jones and Cameron due to the whole 50 Cent situation. But I went more in depth with that with my Dipset video. When Joel's was at his peak, he was so unstoppable with that pen. And it's a shame that he never dropped another album after 2005. He had all the talent in the world, but man, it just sucks. Like, it truly does hurt. Something I did find out, though, about Joel's is that when I was doing research, I came across a DJ Vlad interview where Vlad interviewed Choke No Joke, who, if y'all don't know Choke No Joke, he was a former Roc-A-Fella videographer who worked a lot with Dame Dash, and it's the least to say that he's an interesting figure. I've seen people hate on Choke and praise him, but one thing that I will say is that that man has a lot of footage of Roc-A-Fella in their prime that is gold, and you guys should definitely check it out on his channel. He has some great clips, but his opinions and what he said about Jay-Z, Dame, Biggs, and other people make him a controversial figure, which I hate using that word to describe him. But anyways, we'll get into him in the next section. What he said in the interviews is that there was a state property Dipset tour, but Jay-Z started pulling people off of the tour for the Rock the Mic tour. Kevin Liles wanted to put Foxy Brown on the tour, but Dame thought that Foxy Brown was a liability. So he suggested Joel's go on tour because Joel's was hot at the time. Def Jam had an extra $5,000, so Dame allegedly suggested they give Joel's the money, but they declined and said that they would give Joel's $2,500 a show out of his marketing budget. Ladies and gentlemen, that is super grimy. Joel's probably, until now, honestly didn't know that he was getting paid this money out of his marketing budget. He's getting this money, probably thinking it's from a promoter, but instead it's out of his own marketing budget. And he's probably blowing through it, thinking that it's his and not something that he has to pay back. That is the ultimate foul, in my opinion. What do you guys think of that? Now, Jim and Freaky, I believe, were under Roc-A-Fella, but just under Dipset. But as a solo artist, Jim went to Koch Records. As we know, Jim would get red hot in 2006 when he dropped We Fly High. I know I was super young at the time, but for some reason, I do remember hearing this song a lot as a kid. And it was one of my favorite songs. I used to say ballin' literally out of nowhere when I was in school, when I was super young. But Jim has still been releasing music throughout the years. And now he's currently under Roc Nation. Memphis Bleek would stay with Jay-Z, of course. I mean, like, why wouldn't he? Like that, like that's his man. But Bleek would drop his last album as of today in May of 2005, titled 534. To me, this is a really good album by Bleek and probably my favorite album by him. But to me personally, as I said in a previous episode, that the thing that stopped Bleek from being a superstar was being Jay-Z's protege. To me, their relationship should have been more like a Joel's and Cameron. Obviously, Cam was not as big as Jay at his peak, but still, Joel's had things outside of Cam and Dipset that he's done. Like I said earlier, with him going #1 for 5 straight weeks with Chris Brown and his classic mixtape series with Wayne. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to disrespect Bleek, but you know it's sad when the most streamed song on music platforms by you is Dear Summer with Jay-Z. You're not even on the song at all. Even Bleek has admitted that Jay's lines on the remix of Kanye West's late registration lead single, Diamonds, hurt his career. The line goes, Bleek could be one hit away his whole career. As long as he's alive, he's a millionaire. And even if I die, he's in my will somewhere. So he could just kick back and chill somewhere. Oh yeah, he don't even have to write rhymes. The dynasty like my money, last 3 lifetimes. Bleak at the 534 would never end up making another album. But as of now, he has his own label under Roc Nation, which is Warehouse Music Group. He signed acts like Manolo Rose and Casanova. Kanye West obviously stayed with Jay-Z, and come on, like, what can I say about Kanye that y'all already don't know? I mean, the man has, in my opinion, you know, it's not even like an opinion no more. He surpassed Jay-Z. Yeah, like the man that was once looked down on has now surpassed his, I don't know what you would refer to Jay as from Kanye's point of view, a mentor, a friend, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I might get some hate for that, but you're delusional if you don't think that he surpassed Jay-Z by now. In my opinion, I mean, musically, he has the most classics in the rap genre ever. I think Jay has maybe 4 or 5, with the 4 being Reasonable Doubt, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, The Blueprint, and the Black Album. To me, Kanye has 7. The College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, 808's Heartbreaks, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, and The Life of Pablo. In Jay's case, you can maybe argue 5, but I don't know. But it doesn't really...
Now, I do agree that Kanye has 3, well, essentially 4 classic albums. His first 3, which is his debut album, The College Dropout, the second album, Late Registration, the third album, which I deemed as Kanye's best work, which is Graduation. No doubt about it. Graduation is a classic album. Especially my favorite songs from Can't Tell Me Nothing, Good Life, Flashing Lights, my top 3 favorite classic songs. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, what about Stronger? I like Stronger, but even though it was a #1 hit, but to me, like I said, the more Stronger records, in my opinion, are way stronger than just Stronger themselves. Now, this is my opinion. Don't, for any Kanye West stan or fan out there, don't attack me. Don't hurt me. Don't attack me. But it's my personal opinion. I like Can't Tell Me Nothing, Good Life with T-Pain, and Flashing Lights way more than I like Stronger. That's just my personal opinion. You guys are entitled to have your opinion. If you like Stronger, you like Stronger. That's just my opinion. All right. Want to get that out of the way, but let's continue.
Matter if Kanye has 7. But anyways, like Kanye has done well for himself, and at one point in time, him and Jay were really close, especially when they made the Watch the Throne album, which is another classic if you want to add it to both of their tallies. But I was only counting solo albums. But if that's the case, then I had to add Kids See Ghosts by Kanye and Kid Cudi, because to me that's a classic. But yeah, but we definitely need to Watch the Throne too, man, like for real. But tell me in the comments who has the most classics between the two and why. Also, Kanye has been killing it with his Yeezy brand of sneakers, which reportedly brought in an estimated $1.7 billion in sales in 2020. Dame, since the breakup, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Obviously, we know Dame tried to make a comeback with his own label, but it didn't really go according to plan. Dame has still managed to be a talked about figure years after the fall of Roc-A-Fella, whether he's talking about being a boss or talking about Jay-Z. I know currently he has Dame Dash Studios and he's working on getting that really going. Now we go on to Biggs, because this is actually really funny. I actually had to come back after all this was done to write about Biggs, because I really forgot about him. Like, Biggs was so in the background of things and he wasn't out and about like that. I mean, you got Jay, who was one of, if not the hottest rappers during when Roc-A-Fella was in his prime, so he was always getting media attention. Dame Dash was literally everywhere and in everything, so he was getting a ton of attention too. And Biggs was rarely in stuff. The only videos I can recall off the top of my head that Biggs was in was the Dipset Anthem video and the One for Petey Crack video. He's probably in more, but let me tell you that number is way less than Dame Dash. Like, Dame is in everything. Dame was in like every video doing the funniest but craziest stuff. Like, I swear. Like, it's easier to name what videos Dame...
Right. And this is where I can really respect Biggs. That Biggs never cared. I think Biggs was one of those people that never cared about being in the spotlight. It's always business, working behind the scenes, even if I'm a co-founder for a company. I don't want to be seen in front of outside in public, in front of the cameras, the paparazzis. I like to work and make sure I locate behind the scenes doing what needs to do to get the job done. So I applaud Biggs for that. I definitely applaud him for that. Because that's how a boss should move. Like, not like a boss doesn't want to be in a spotlight and the limelight all the time. I want to work and make sure business is good, make sure the money is right, make sure everybody in their situation with their contracts or anything in the office is right before anything else. That's what it takes to be a boss. And it's a good thing that, you know, he didn't like try to steal the spotlight from his artists by hopping into music videos. That's what like Dame Dash tried to do. That I have a real personal gripe with executives, especially executive producers and label bosses being in their artist's music video. Like, to me, I don't like that, because now it seems to me like you're trying to take the attention away from the artist and try to make sure the spotlight is all on you. This is the thing with Diddy, the thing with Jermaine Dupri, even with V.R.G. Rest in peace to V.R.G. But he also was hopping in his artists' music videos too much. Same thing with Birdman. Just a lot of label bosses getting in that don't rap, getting involved in their artists' music video to try to get the attention. Like, it should be more about your artist and not about you. Like, this is your artist's music video. This is their music. Yeah, you had a role in their careers and putting them on, but people want to see the artist. They didn't came to see you. Came to see the executives. That right there, I just can't rock with. Now, a lot of people will say, but like people like Eminem, 50 Cent, Jay-Z, who else? Lil Wayne and anybody else, or like who else? Pharrell Williams and Timbaland. They're all label bosses, but they get involved with their artists' music videos. That's different. Like, especially like with Eminem and Dr. Dre, that's different. Because not only they're doing boss things with running labels and doing business, but all of them are musicians too. They're artists. So 50 had, like, for example, if 50 Cent wants to, like back in the day when 50 was at the peak of his career, people would be like, 50 is in his artists' music videos. That's different because 50 is an artist. And he actually raps. Same thing with Jay-Z. Jay-Z is not only just a businessman and a boss, but he's an artist too. If he wants to be, that's different. Same thing with Pharrell. Yes, Pharrell produced a lot of tracks for the Clips. But because Pharrell was an artist too, not just a boss and a producer, but he was an artist. And he will put some of his lyrics and some contribute to the song as well. There's a difference. That's how I look at it. But let's continue.
It's not in, then the one that he's in. But yeah, Biggs has done well after Roc-A-Fella. Biggs has executive produced films like OG and It's a Hard Truth, Ain't It? Then getting back into music and starting his management company, Circle of Success, and then signing artists like St. John, who had a huge hit, Rose's Remix, which has over 1 billion streams on Spotify alone. Crazy. And now Biggs is back connected and cool with Jay-Z, which leads to Dame being the odd one out. I know Dame and Jay appear to have settled their differences in 2013, but since then, Dame and Jay haven't had the best relationship, and it's kind of sad. I really want everybody to be cool again, but there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we do know, but a ton that we don't know. The next part, we'll get into some of those topics. But finally, we get to Jay-Z, and just like Kanye, I think that we all know about Jay and what he's done since the Roc-A-Fella breakup. We all know Jay came out of retirement with the Kingdom Come album, and for a while, he was dropping album after album again, with his last album, as of right now, being 444, which released in June of 2017. Him and Beyonce are still together, and
Now, we know for a fact that at that time, even though this documentary is old, and the documentary came out 5 years ago, so I believe it was either 2020 or 2021. At the time, yes, it was Jay-Z's last album, but we all know right now, just recently, we're seeing that Jay-Z's back outside when it comes to music. He's making a comeback into music. He just did a few months ago. He just did the Picnics Roots Festival. Then right now he's currently on a short stadium tour, like he did for his the anniversary tour, which is for his albums The Blueprint and Reasonable Doubt, the 30 years for Reasonable Doubt, 25 years with The Blueprint, and then he had an extra day called Jay-Z's Extra Innings, where he collaborates on most of his hits. So Jay-Z is currently on tour. I think as of right now, he's getting ready to go on to continue that 30-year anniversary tour. I think he's about to go overseas to Europe to perform in Paris, and then in October he's supposed to come back to continue that when he goes to LA at the SoFi Stadium on October 23rd to, I guess, finish that off, or to do that, to finish. I think that will be his last show. I don't know. But I know Jay-Z right now is back into the music. Jay-Z's gearing up to potentially drop a new album by the end of this year, or maybe sometime next year. I know he's already confirmed to be featured on an album from Corrupt and Rakim, and I believe and Killer Priest. They're getting up to drop an album. It was reports that Jay-Z and Eminem are supposed to be featuring on the same track together alongside Rakim, Corrupt, and Killer Priest from the Wu-Tang. So that's pretty cool. So, yeah, so Jay is back outside. So, like I say, even though this documentary is old, it came out 5 years ago, but Jay is, in fact, back outside. Let's continue.
Have 3 kids with each other, and as mentioned earlier, Jay-Z has been doing great and has elevated since the Roc-A-Fella breakup, whether it's with his dealings with Roc Nation, Tidal, the Nets, in which he actually had a stake of 1/15 of 1% in the Nets, which was valued at $350,000, and his stake in Barclays, which he had 1/5 of 1%, which was worth $2 million. As of 2021, it is projected, I believe, that Jay-Z is a billionaire along with Kanye West. I do know Jay's net worth jumped by 40% following his LVMH and Square Inc. deals. Okay, now we're about to get into the real reason why we're here. In this next section, I'm going to dive into some reasons why Roc-A-Fella broke up.
All right, here we go.
Let's start off with the clip of Jay in 2003 talking about how him and Dame were growing apart.
Where did this come from, and what is the status of it?
Well, if you see people like me and Dane, we'd be together every day, because our drive was for Roc-A-Fella. You know what I'm saying? So we ain't have anything else to do. So we'd be together every day. Every day, our waking day, we was worried about doing something else to make Roc-A-Fella grow. In the beginning, we'd jump in the van, we'd go to Maryland, we'd go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And now we got our focus everywhere. Different things. There's Rock-A-Wear, there's state property, there's Armadale, there's so many different things, as well as things that we always want to do on our own. Which is, when people see that, us drifting apart, we always been polar opposites. You know what I'm saying? But when people see us drifting apart or doing different things like that, it leads to like talking, and then that just grows and it grows. And but I mean, I'm the kid's I'm his son's godfather. You know what I'm saying? That's my brother. Me and him, we work to this thing happen, and we both realize our dreams together. So we gonna always have that bond. So it's not a beef. It's just that it's just growing. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes growing means growing apart, not in a bad way. Like I liken it to like a LA, you know, like I said, baby face situation. You know, we all got things that we want to do. We want to do separately.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which is cool. Like
I'm to be honest, I'm not really mad at Jay-Z for being honest, basically saying, yo, listen. He basically saying, like, into his point of view, he's like, yo, Dame, listen. We have to grow. We have to, you know, we have to grow as men. We have to literally have a career. Because if we focus more on building this together, how are we going to, you know, adapt and build like on like a great basically kind of like how are we going to able to go forward within our careers if we stay not to say so much we don't have to stay together, but we want you to grow individually. Like we don't want to stay under one roof together. Like you get to go out and do your own thing. Why can't I get to go out to do mine? I think that I kind of see where Jay-Z's point of view coming from. Like he wants to be able to grow on his own. Like he feels like, hey, we reached a level of success. Let's you know, we'll still be there for one another. But I feel like, you know, we built something. Now it's time to expand it on our own and continue that growth. And maybe one day we'll come back together. I guess Dame didn't like that, or somehow, I guess that's where maybe the disconnect started to come. But yeah, I don't blame Jay-Z for, you know, keeping it real. But let's continue.
happy for him. You know what I mean? As well as, you know, he's happy for me. It's just that
right.
It's part of life. It's part of
There's also another video of Jay-Z breaking down him and Dame Dash's relationship in 2002.
Dame Dash and Jay-Z.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that the two of you were feuding over business issues.
Right.
Can you clarify that for the
thing about me and Dame is like whatever we don't agree on, you know, we can always talk to each other and we can always, whether I'm wrong or whether he's wrong or whatever, we can always see our way through it. It's never a problem that we can't see our way through it and people just blew it up to be more than what it was. I mean, it's what we've been doing for forever. You know, we're two different people. You know what I'm saying? He's a loud guy. I'm a laid back guy. Like you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be times where we're not on 100% on the same page, but we're friends. You know what I'm saying? We came in this thing, we built this from nothing. Nothing. Like, you know, taking our own records, getting them pressed up ourselves. So there's nothing that we can't see our way through.
So this last part, we're going to break it down into 3 sections. I've watched a ton of interviews, read articles, etc. to basically come up with 3 main reasons why Roc-A-Fella Records broke up. The 3 reasons are 3 simple reasons: money, women, and power/ego. I have heard different stories from multiple different people in interviews from people that were affiliated with Roc-A-Fella backing this up. Of course, there is way more than 3 reasons why Roc-A-Fella broke up, but I'm just saying from what I've researched, these are the 3 main reasons that I have really came across.
Okay.
Let's start off with money. So we all know that Dame Dash, Jay-Z, and Biggs all had their part in ownership of Roc-A-Fella, which meant that they had to split the money 3 different ways. There's been stories that Jay-Z was allegedly getting tired of splitting the money 3 ways, and that Jay was upset with his position on Forbes due to this. Roc-A-Fella made a lot of money, but they also spent a lot of money, and the person that a lot of people put on the blame for that is Dame Dash. For those who are familiar with Dame, at least back in the day, is that Dame was blowing through money. In Dame's own words, he was popping tags every day, and he wouldn't wear things like shoes more than once, which, I mean, like, I hear like a lot of celebrities do that, but still, like, that's still like really crazy to me.
Right.
But Dame had an expensive taste, private jets literally everywhere, frequent shopping, but
potentially maybe blowing a lot of money. And I can guarantee, and I can see why Jay-Z was, you know, allegedly getting frustrated with Dame. He's like, he probably told Dame, bro, you need to, like, I'm pretty sure Jay and Biggs told Dame, yo, you need to chill with this spending habit. Okay, you need to focus on what's going on and not focus on going on a shopping sprees every time you make money. Yes, I get it. We're all rich and we're all living our lavish best lives and we're celebrities now, but you still have a position to play. You can't be spending money on ridiculous and dumb purchases. Like shoes, for example. Like, bro, I'm pretty sure Jay is like, yo, how many shoes do you need? I guarantee Jay and Biggs were getting very, very frustrated with Dame Dash. But I'm going to keep this allegedly because I don't know the whole backstory. Just like even Clout Cocoon is even said it in the best, or Dre from Clout Cocoon is saying the best. Like, you know, we don't know the whole backstory, but that's what, you know, the whole thing. And I'm hoping maybe someday I'm hoping Jay-Z will probably on this potential new album probably, you know, has a song deep diving the history behind like more of Roc-A-Fella and where really things went wrong between him and Dame. I would like to hear more from Jay-Z's perspective. But we all know that's never going to happen in an interview, and I highly doubt Jay is going to ever address this in a song either. But yeah. But let's continue.
Personal chefs, etc. In an interview with DJ Vlad, Petey Crack told a story about how Damon Biggs just randomly picked him up from Baseline Studio, which was in New York, might I add, and took him to Chicago to go to Twista's video shoot with R. Kelly. They were only there for about an hour, and then they hopped back on the jet and go to Vegas to catch a Floyd Mayweather fight, and then they went to a Talib Kweli concert. Then after that, they flew to Hollywood and chilled out for there a little bit, and then flew back home. According to Petey, this all happened in one day, which is actually really, really insane. Then I saw an interview with Beanie Siegel on Global Grind TV, and he said that Dame was spending a lot of company money. This is something that I've also read and heard from multiple people that were there around Roc-A-Fella. Dame was going on these trips, going into different business ventures, taking money from one thing and trying to build other brands without consulting his other partners and things of that nature. Now, we get into the second part of the downfall, which is women. Now, I don't know much about the behind the scenes women, but the main ones I want to discuss is Beyonce and Aaliyah. According to Choke No Joke, he said that Jay was actually messing with Aaliyah before Dame, but hinted that the reason why Jay never really went public with Aaliyah was because Jay had an image to uphold. Jay allegedly wanted to keep the player image at the time, and maybe it was something else, but other than less, they never went public with whatever they had. Dame would then also slide in on Aaliyah, and also according to Choke No Joke, Dame probably used Jay not fully committing to his advantage to lure Aaliyah away from Jay, because we all know that Dame committed to Aaliyah, but unfortunately Aaliyah would pass away in August of 2001. R.I.P. Aaliyah, by the way, such a talented individual gone too soon.
Exactly. R.I.P. to Aaliyah. Like, Aaliyah could have had so much potential as an artist. Like, for example, I think Aaliyah was still growing as an artist. I felt like Aaliyah at the time could have been, like, on the same level as Beyonce. But, you know, that's a what if, and that's a story, and that's an answer we will never get. It's just unfortunate, but let's continue.
A while later, Jay-Z and Beyonce will become official, even though they were allegedly creeping around for a little minute before they became public. But yeah, when they became public, it was a big thing. It's alleged that Dame tried to holler at Beyonce and do something similar to what he did with Aaliyah, but Jay was not having that at all.
Nah. I need to do some research on that. There's no way in hell Dame Dash try to hook up with Beyonce. I can't even see that happening. But let's continue. Oh, wait, hold up.
How someone acts around people says a lot about them. But if you're a guy, how you act around women really says a lot about you. Jay was probably not feeling how Dame kept on trying to pull away the girls he had from him. One time was probably like, you know what, like, it's whatever. But a second time, it's like yeah, like, I'm really like raising my eyebrow for sure. What's weird is that years later, Jay-Z would infamously cheat on Beyonce. And after that news got out, Beyonce made the album Lemonade. And in the song, she talks about a girl named Becky with good hair. Now, there's a ton of speculation of who the heck Becky with the good hair is, but people speculate that allegedly Becky with the good hair is actually Rachel Roy. You wanna know who Rachel Roy's ex-husband is? Dame Dash. Like, so that just made the Dame Hove situation just so much weirder if that's actually true. The third part of the downfall of Roc-A-Fella is power/ego. Many of y'all know how Dame Dash is and how he acts now, and used to act back in the day. Just Blaze said in an interview with DJ Vlad that Dame is a great guy with a great heart, but his mouth just got in the way too much. Dame had a lot of enemies with some of the stuff he was doing and saying, whether justified or not. We can even dial it back to the Backstage documentary when Def Jam made the Def Jam jackets for Roc-A-Fella artists. Dame snapped on Kevin Liles and Def Jam, which to me made complete sense because it was about the principle. Roc-A-Fella paid for the tour. Now, was the delivery of what he was saying the best? That can be debated upon how you would deal with something like that. But to me, Dame was in the right because Def Jam was trying to pull a fast one, but Dame caught them red-handed. The thing that does confuse me about Dame is in multiple videos back in the day, you can hear Dame refer to Jay as his artist, which technically he should have been referring to him as his business partner. Jay was his business partner along with Biggs. Many of y'all have probably seen infamous.
That right there, that was not smart of Dame Dash. Yes, I get it. And that it is true. Jay-Z was in fact the artist. But we got to remember, Dame acting like he founded Roc-A-Fella. No, Dame, it was you, Jay-Z, and Biggs. You guys together created Roc-A-Fella. It's not one person. It was the three of you. And yes, of course, Jay-Z was also the boss, but he was also an artist. So for Dame to call Jay-Z his artist is really insane and wild, knowing that both of y'all co-founded Roc-A-Fella together. And I'm pretty sure Jay was probably like, wait a minute. Jay probably looked at Dame like, bro, I am not your artist. Yeah, I am an artist in the industry, but I'm not your artist. I'm your business partner. And we're making the money together, not just you only. But let's continue.
This clip of Dame Dash going off on the Def Jam staff about the secret marketing meeting about the Black Album. Dame is yelling at them for scheduling meetings about his artists without his knowledge, but looking back at it now, we all found out that Jay-Z actually called the meeting. Dame was losing control, whether he knew it or not, and Jay was becoming more and more distant. Choke No Joke even said that from when he was at Roc-A-Fella until the split, Jay never came to the Roc-A-Fella office at all. And I've heard other people say this too, that Jay was not really around much. Choke No Joke actually told a story about when Jay-Z performed for Def Jam instead of Roc-A-Fella at the Mix Show Power Summit, which in his words was everyone coming together from the music industry and showing off their new talent, the new up-and-comers of the game on your label. Choke said that this event I'm about to tell you about happened in like 2002, 2003. The weekend of the Mix Show Power Summit, Def Jam had a sponsored night and Roc-A-Fella had a sponsored night. Dame paid for Roc-A-Fella to have a whole day to themselves. Dame would ask Jay-Z to perform for Roc-A-Fella, but Jay told him no, he didn't want to do that. The Roc-A-Fella day was Saturday, but Choke said that he was walking through the lobby and Jay-Z's manager at the time grabbed Choke and told him to film Jay getting out of the helicopter. Choke was confused because he thought, why would Jay come on Friday instead of Saturday for the Roc-A-Fella day? Choke would then call Dame to tell him that Jay was at the event and going to perform for Def Jam and Lyor Cohen. Dame was obviously thrown aback by this, and it probably hurt him even more because at this time, and even still now, today, Dame and Lyor Cohen do not like each other at all. If this is true, which I'm not calling it a lie, like I said, I was not there, but this is kind of crazy because Jay performed for Def Jam instead of performing for his own label with his own artists to give them the shine. Choke thinks that this was one of the things done for Jay to eventually get his masters back after the split. You guys got to think that the masters belong to Dame, Jay, and Biggs because they started the company together. But Def Jam bought out Roc-A-Fella and gave Jay all the masters back to all his albums he made with Def Jam. The only album he doesn't have the complete masters for is Reasonable Doubt. You want to know why? Because it wasn't made under Def Jam. So that's why. And people last video were trying to tell me that Jay owns 100% of it, which is a lie. Because Big said in an interview with Vlad that he would never, ever sell his share in Reasonable Doubt. And to my knowledge, I don't think that Dame has ever sold his share. I'm not trying to paint anybody as the villain or the hero here, but honestly, if we look at this breakup, it was honestly inevitable. Biggs doesn't get brought up much because we didn't visibly see him a lot. So his issues or whatever, we never really heard about like we did for Dame.
It's just like I said, Biggs was smart. He stayed low-key behind the scenes, was never in the public. So I think, you know, I don't think, and to looking at this documentary and looking at, you know, from Jay-Z's point of view and just looking at everybody's point of view of what's going on currently right now, I think to me, Dame, I feel like Jay and Biggs probably never had a problem. They went their separate ways. That's just how I'm looking at it. I don't know the whole backstory, but in terms of what I've been hearing about the good stuff about Biggs and Jay, it seems to me, you know, they were still cool. They kind of split ways and did their own thing on a positive note. That's the reason why, like I said, I got to give mad props and respect for Biggs for, you know, not caring about being in the spotlight or the limelight like that and wanted to be publicly seen. He just kept it business and low-key and worked behind the scenes. That's how I look at it. But let's continue.
I think it's safe to say that Jay probably wanted Dame to play a more behind-the-scenes role like Biggs did. Dame was too flashy and in front of the cameras, and he was constantly warring with label executives, whether justified or not. The industry does not like outspoken people like that.
That's what I just said, because I just talked about that too, how I don't like when executives try to be in the limelight and try to take all the attention away from the artist. Jay knew that Dame was trying to take all the spotlight, all the attention away from him. It's kind of like Jay is kind of like telling Dame, like, bro, you're not a rapper. You're not an artist. You are an executive. Like, bro, you don't need to be in the limelight. You need to be in everything. You don't need to showcase your wealth, man. Just be a businessman. Work behind the scenes. I mean, you could be in the limelight if you want, but not so much where to the point you want all the attention to yourself. And that's what I mean when I said I don't like executives being in their artists' music, especially in the music videos. Like, stay behind the scenes. Like, you don't have to be in front of the spotlight. So I'm pretty sure Jay was very, very frustrated with that. And to tell you the truth, if Jay was in fact frustrated by that, I don't blame him. Like, bro, you're not an artist. Stay behind the scenes. Stay at the office. Make sure Jay was probably telling Dave, yo, make sure the business is good. You don't have to be the center of attention. Like, let me do all the, like, I'm the star right here. Let me do the promotions. Let me make sure everything is good. Let me be the spokesperson. Well, not spokesperson. Let me be the mouthpiece for Roc-A-Fella. You don't have to do anything. I apologize. I'm sorry. There was something in my mouth and I got to spit it out. I do apologize. But let's continue. Let's continue.
That Even Beanie Siegel in an interview said that Jay kind of felt this way and that Dame should have took more of a role like Biggs did. Dame, to me, in those days, I don't know about now, but he could never play that behind the scenes role like Biggs did. Many of y'all know that I love the show The Wire, and I'm about to connect this to a scene in The Wire. Dame would be Prop Joe, the Greeks would be Def Jam, Island Def Jam, and Jay-Z would be Marlo. Also, spoiler alert, if you ever seen The Wire, but basically, the 4th episode of the 5th season, Cheese, who was played by Method Man actually, set up his uncle Prop Joe to be confronted by Marlo and Chris. Obviously, Prop Joe doesn't have the same personality as Dame, but that's not the point. Marlo wants to get rid of Prop Joe to have the heroin connect from the Greeks all to himself. Prop Joe then makes a proposition that he will go away forever and won't cause problems if Marlo spared his life. People could think that Jay could have approached Dame and talked to him about chilling out and taking more of a behind-the-scenes role, but that role with Dame's personality would never work out. Jay must have felt like he had to do what he had to do. Business was business. Marlo knew that Prop Joe going away and changing his ways would never work in his eyes. Prop Joe was doing bad business, like Dame Dash was allegedly doing bad business. And this is something multiple people have said. Going back to The Wire though, Prop Joe would also say the lines, "I treat you like a son" in the scene. And then Marlo replies, "I wasn't meant to play the son." Jay-Z was simply never meant to play the son role. Jay-Z always wanted to be bigger than an artist. He wasn't meant to stay with the trio forever. Just like Marlo wasn't going to be under Prop Joe and the co-op forever. Dame would refer to Jay as his artist, was in a way Son Jay, because Jay was more than an artist, especially to him. Jay was never meant to play that role forever. He eventually knew that he had to outgrow Dame and Biggs. Marlo would say that the Greeks were cool with him taking out Prop Joe, just like Def Jam and Island Def Jam were cool with Jay taking out Biggs and Dame. Marlo got rewarded the plug for heroin from the Greeks, and Jay got rewarded most of his masters and a president position at Def Jam where they paid him.
Hey, shout out to Clout Cocoon. That was a good metaphor. Like you're comparing you're comparing the Dame and Jay situation to the Wire situation. That good metaphor too.
$10 million a year for 3 years. Business is business, and it was never anything personal. I think in a future video I can break that down way deeper, but if you've seen the show The Wire, then you definitely get what I'm trying to say. And if you haven't seen The Wire, I cannot recommend it enough, and what I said would make a lot more sense. Comment down below another scene from The Wire that you can connect to rap history, and maybe I can get a series going. Also, I'll put a link to the full scene in the description. But money, women, and power/ego are the 3 reasons why Roc-A-Fella broke up. The breakup was unfortunately inevitable, and at this point, I don't know if Dame, Jay, and Biggs can ever come back and connect again, because there's just a lot of bad blood. Biggs and Jay are back cool again, and Dame was cool with both Jay and Biggs for a little bit, but has since then took shots at Jay on numerous occasions. Maybe years down the line they can all make up, but I don't think all 3 will ever have a business relationship ever again. It's a shame that Roc-A-Fella had so much talent on their roster and we never really got to see everyone's full potential. It's weird to think that Roc-A-Fella with Dame, Biggs, and Jay lasted less than a decade, and then everything after that was just a shell of what they had.
Okay. So that was of course that was hold on a second, y'all. Hold on. So that was the documentary. And that was such a good documentary that was being displayed. Very good documentary. And to tell you the truth, it is probably a massive shame that, you know, how things went down between Dame Dash and Jay-Z, unfortunately. But at least we got some good, at least, you know, Roc-A-Fella will forever be something to remember. Such great artists, like great music, but it's just a shame that It's a shame that Dame and Jay had a falling out over money and power and ego. But it's just from my perspective, I feel like looking at this documentary, and it kind of makes sense of why Jay has so much resentment towards Dame, because Dame tried to sun him and tried to technically almost ruin the business and ruining the brand, because Dame kept doing ridiculous things. And I guarantee Jay was kind of like, bro, chill out. We got a brand to protect. And the fact that Dame probably wanted Jay to stay as an artist and be more and try to sun him, Jay was probably like, nah, I'm not with this anymore. You're not finna sun me. You're not finna tell me I'm an artist. At this point, I'm gonna take my share of my success and continue to do it on my own and just grow it myself. And that's where we are. Look, Jay is obviously a billionaire. He's doing big. He's doing great things right now. Like I said, he's currently on tour, gearing up to drop new music. And, of course, Dame is dealing with his financial problems. And, Biggs is doing good for himself as well. But, yeah, this was a great documentary. Shout out to Cloud Cocoon. Wonderful documentary. Like I said, I was supposed to do the third and the second half a couple of weeks ago, right after the first half. So this was an interesting documentary. So to now know the whole backstory of where Dame and Jay's relationship went wrong, it's just like Dre said, it was due to money, power, and women. That's how I look at it. But yeah. But let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on the documentary? And do y'all know any of this stuff that was going on with the whole situation with Roc-A-Fella? Because I didn't know. Now that I got the whole backstory of Roc-A-Fella, where it all started from the beginning to where it went sour and where it went all downhill between Jay-Z and Dame Dash. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and end the live stream right here. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification as well. Also follow me on my social media platforms above. Join the Discord as well, leaving a link in the description down below. So, without further ado, see you guys in the next one. Deuces.